It's a glorious day on the west coast of Scotland, but I have to admit, it is not always like this in winter. The winter rains can really make it hard to get out training. So in this video, I'll show you the mix of training that I put in over winter, a slightly unusual mix. So I'm ready to start riding again come the spring. It all depends on your goal. I'm aiming to be age group competitive and do these sort of activities for as many years as possible. Sports science has many, sometimes conflicting recommendations, and recently I've found and adopted ones in this book by Dr. Peter Attier. They're simple and clearly quantify minimum training needed for older athletes. We'll start with the hard stuff. You'll have heard of VO2 max. This aerobic capacity is a pretty good proxy measure of physical capability. It declines steeply with age, 15% a decade over 50, so things that were easy in our 20s become all but impossible in our late 70s, unless we train to raise our aerobic capacity. And it only takes an hour a week, minimum. Essentially, it's interval training at a bit below flat out. A simple formula is 4 minutes hard, 4 minutes recovery, repeated 4 times. Done indoors or outside on a quiet hill, always after warming up, rolling down the hill to recover. You'll find loads of variations in training plans, but repeating hard, sustainable efforts are the foundation. I recently rode with Donnie Campbell, who coached me for a couple of months, and asked him to explain how Zone 4 should feel.
So say you're doing a set of 6 intervals, so 6 3 minutes, 2 minute recovery. So the first 2 should be almost as good as the last 2, but obviously the first 2 are going to feel slightly easier because you're fresh. Reps 5 and 6, you should be able to hold that same effort, but obviously your heart rate's going to be getting closer to your maximum heart rate. And again, Stephen Seiler, sports physiologist, says when you're doing that type of session, you should always finish the session with, 1 more rep. If you really had to and empty the tank, you could do 1 more rep. So you're not wanting to kill yourself in every session because you're going to run the high risk of being injured, and also the recovery before the next session takes a lot longer.
Aerobic efficiency training is less intense. Zone 2, as it's called, is somewhere between 75 and 80% of your maximum heart rate. According to Dr. Attier, 4 hours a week will improve aerobic efficiency. Again, you could do that outdoors on longer rides or more focused, shorter indoor sessions. And there's a simple talk test to determine Zone 2. I was in it trying to keep up with Donnie. Zone 2 is when it is a struggle to get out the last few words of a sentence, or try singing out loud.
If you're having to rush the last 2 or 3 words of the verse, you're probably at your top end of your Zone 2. Or if you're by yourself, like counting to 10 is always a good gauge, because then you've got something to relate to every time you go out. It's the same phrase.
When trail running, I get into Zone 2 more quickly than on the bike, and as I've explained, I find this works as strength training as well. 90 minutes of solid badminton delivers almost an hour of Zone 2 when I play singles, but then I'm not very good and I run around a lot. But in addition, I have a special piece of kit. Meet Maggie. She's walked between 1 and 2 hours daily, and I've been trying to use this time as training. One way I'm trying for the first time today is to load a rucksack with weights and set out to climb one of our usual hills. It's not normally this windy. This isn't even the weight of my winter hill walking sack, but I don't go winter hill walking 3 or 4 times a week, and I can increase the weight on this as I get used to it. So this, together with the cycling and everything else, will contribute towards maintaining my cardiovascular health. Here I'm just scratching the surface. You can add in Zone 3 tempo sessions at lactate threshold. You can determine your own zone scientifically with a lactate finger prick test. And I'm getting a VO2 max test 20 years after my first. I have so much to learn. My strength training technique, I feel, is poor, so I'm looking for a trainer to help improve that form. And that will all hopefully be in future videos in this series, so please subscribe. Check out one of these videos and tell me what you do to stay fit in the comments. I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.